You think you know what men really feel about love and sex. But what if I told you that most of what you believe is dead wrong? Men may smile, flirt, and even say the right things, but behind closed doors, their hearts and minds work in ways you've probably never imagined. And if you knew the truth, you'd understand exactly why they fall in love, why they pull away, and what truly keeps them coming back for more. When it comes to understanding men, one of the biggest misconceptions is assuming that physical attraction and emotional love always go hand in hand for them. In reality, men are often capable of separating lust from love more easily than many women might imagine. This doesn't mean men are incapable of deep emotional connections. It means that their initial attraction and even their desire for intimacy doesn't automatically translate into a commitment or a feeling of being in love. For a lot of men, physical attraction can exist in its own lane, independent of emotional attachment. This is why you might see situations where a man seems passionately interested one moment, showering a woman with compliments, texting her constantly, and pursuing her with intensity, but later doesn't move things toward a deeper, committed relationship. The truth is, that early burst of energy might have been driven purely by desire, not by love. From a psychological standpoint, this ability to separate lust from love comes from both biology and conditioning. On a biological level, men are wired to respond quickly to visual and physical cues that trigger attraction. This response is almost instantaneous. It's instinctive. Emotional love, however, requires time, shared experiences, trust, and compatibility. These are two very different processes that don't always overlap. Social conditioning adds another layer to this dynamic. Men are often encouraged from a young age to value sexual conquest as a marker of confidence or success, while emotional vulnerability is treated as something to be cautious with. This shapes the way many men approach relationships. They may feel more comfortable exploring physical attraction early, but hesitant to open their hearts until they're certain it's safe. This separation can sometimes create confusion or disappointment for women, because from their perspective, intimacy often feels like a step toward emotional closeness. If a woman feels emotionally invested after sharing physical intimacy, she might naturally expect that the man is feeling the same way. But for many men, those two experiences don't merge until other conditions are met. Conditions like trust, emotional safety, and a deep personal connection. In some cases, a man might genuinely enjoy a woman's company, be physically attracted to her, and still not see her as someone he will fall in love with, simply because his emotional criteria for love haven't been met yet. This doesn't make men cold or unfeeling. It simply highlights the different ways love and desire can develop. Desire can be instant. It's sparked by something as simple as a smile, a voice, or a glance. Love, for men, tends to be slower, more deliberate, and built over time. In fact, many men don't even recognize they're falling in love until they realize they think about a woman when she's not around. They worry about her well-being, or they want to include her in their future plans. Until then, physical attraction can remain just that, physical. Understanding this difference can change the way you interpret a man's actions in the early stages of dating. Instead of assuming that physical intimacy equals love, it's important to look for signs of emotional investment. Does he remember small details about you? Does he show up when he says he will? Does he make time for you even when it's inconvenient? Does he listen when you speak and value your opinions? These are the behaviors that indicate love is forming, not just lust. Men are fully capable of deep love, but love for them is often built in layers, with desire being just one of those layers. The more you understand this, the easier it becomes to navigate the early stages of connection without misreading signals or setting yourself up for disappointment. Recognizing the separation between lust and love in the male mind gives you the power to step back, observe, and see whether what's growing between you is simply physical chemistry or something with the potential to last. For many men, love is less about the constant fireworks of passion and more about the steady sense of safety and respect they feel in a relationship. While physical attraction may pull them in, it's the emotional security that makes them stay and open their hearts fully. Men often fall in love when they feel accepted for who they truly are, flaws and all, without the fear of judgment or rejection. This sense of safety allows them to let down their guard, share their real thoughts, and reveal sides of themselves that they may hide from the rest of the world. Respect plays an equally important role. Men deeply value knowing that their partner sees them as capable, trustworthy, and worthy of admiration. When a man feels that the woman he's with respects his ideas, decisions, and efforts, it strengthens his emotional bond and makes him want to invest more into the relationship. Passion can be thrilling, but it can also fade if it's not supported by mutual trust and appreciation. A man may feel initial excitement with someone he's attracted to, but if he senses criticism, belittlement, or a lack of support, that spark will start to dim. Conversely, when a man knows he can be himself without fear of being shamed or dismissed, the emotional connection deepens. This is because, at his core, a man doesn't just want to be desired, he wants to be understood and valued. Love, for him, isn't just about intense moments. It's about knowing his partner stands with him even when life gets messy or uncertain. Emotional safety for men also means having space to express themselves without feeling pressured to be perfect. Many men grow up with the belief that they must always appear strong, confident, and in control. In love, they long for someone who allows them to be vulnerable without seeing it as weakness. This vulnerability might not always come in the form of emotional speeches. It could be in the way he shares a worry, admits a mistake, or seeks comfort after a difficult day. When a man experiences this kind of acceptance, it creates a trust that passion alone could never sustain. Respect ties into this in a very real way. A man's sense of worth is often connected to how he feels seen and appreciated by his partner. Simple acts, listening to his perspective, showing gratitude for his efforts, and speaking to him with kindness can mean more than grand romantic gestures. These moments tell him that he is valued for more than what he can give physically or materially. Ultimately, for men, love grows strongest in an environment where both safety and respect are constant. Passion might draw them in, but it's this combination that makes them commit with their whole heart. When a man feels safe and respected, his love becomes steady, lasting, and far deeper than any fleeting attraction could ever create. Men connect sex and emotional intimacy in ways that are often misunderstood. For some, sex is the primary pathway to feeling emotionally close, while for others, they need to feel emotionally connected before sex can carry deep meaning. These two perspectives create different experiences in relationships, and understanding them can prevent a lot of confusion and misinterpretation. Many men use physical intimacy as a way to express feelings they may struggle to put into words. In these cases, sex becomes more than a physical act. It's a moment where they feel accepted, wanted, and understood. For a man who operates this way, sexual closeness reassures him of his partner's affection and strengthens his emotional bond. Without it, he may start to feel distant, even if the relationship is otherwise stable. On the other hand, there are men who cannot fully enjoy or value sex unless they already feel emotionally safe with their partner. For them, trust, vulnerability, and shared emotional moments are the foundation. Without these, physical intimacy may feel shallow or incomplete. They view sex as an extension of love, not as a gateway to it. This difference in how men connect love and sex explains why misunderstandings often arise. What feels like a purely physical desire to one man may actually be his way of reaching for emotional closeness, while another man may not engage sexually until he feels that closeness already exists. Biology plays a role here, but so does upbringing and past experience. Men who have been encouraged to express vulnerability may lean toward needing emotional safety before engaging deeply in intimacy. Men who have learned to guard their emotions may instead use sex as their safest way to feel connected. This is also why, in some relationships, a man might withdraw emotionally when physical intimacy declines. If sex is his primary means of bonding, its absence can leave him feeling unappreciated or unloved. It's important to note that neither approach is right or wrong. They're simply different expressions of connection. A man who bonds through sex is not necessarily less emotional, just as a man who needs emotional intimacy first is not necessarily less passionate. These patterns are often shaped by how each individual learned to give and receive love. For some men, words of affirmation or acts of service might be their strongest love languages, while for others, physical touch, particularly sexual intimacy, is at the core of how they experience affection. Recognizing which category a man leans toward can transform a relationship. It helps partners understand the deeper intention behind physical connection and prevents assumptions that sex is only about desire or pleasure. For many men, it is much more than that. It's a mirror of how they feel about the relationship as a whole. When a partner understands this dynamic, intimacy becomes not just a physical experience, but a shared emotional one that deepens the bond beyond what words alone could accomplish. Fear of vulnerability is one of the most influential forces shaping how men express love. From a young age, many men are taught to hide their emotions, to stay composed, and to avoid showing weakness. This cultural conditioning can make it difficult for them to openly share their feelings, even when those feelings are strong. As a result, instead of verbalizing love in heartfelt speeches, they may communicate it through actions by providing, protecting, or solving problems for the people they care about. These gestures are often their way of saying, "I love you," without actually using those words. A man who fixes something for you, checks to make sure you got home safely, or works long hours to provide stability may be showing his love just as deeply as someone who says it out loud. The challenge is that this approach can sometimes be misunderstood, especially by partners who value verbal affirmation. If a man's love language is rooted in action rather than words, his partner might wonder if he truly feels the same depth of affection. This misunderstanding can create distance, even when the love itself is genuine. The truth is, many men struggle to be emotionally transparent, not because they don't care, but because vulnerability feels risky. It opens the door to rejection or judgment, and for someone who has been conditioned to avoid those outcomes, that risk feels heavy. Past experiences also play a role. Men who have been hurt in previous relationships may become even more guarded, choosing to protect themselves by keeping their deepest emotions hidden until they feel absolutely certain of the other person's intentions. Even then, their version of opening up may be subtle, letting you in on their fears, talking about their goals, or revealing insecurities they rarely share with others. These moments, though small, are significant because they represent a break from the emotional armor they wear around most people. For many men, trust is the key that unlocks vulnerability. When they believe their emotions will be met with understanding and not criticism, they are far more likely to reveal their softer side. It may take time and patience to reach this level of comfort, but once it's there, the emotional bond becomes incredibly strong. That trust allows them to not only express their love more openly, but also receive love in ways they may have resisted before. Understanding this fear of vulnerability helps explain why some men might appear emotionally distant when, in reality, they are deeply invested. Their love may be woven into the ways they protect, provide, and stand by their partner. By recognizing these non-verbal expressions as legitimate forms of love, it becomes easier to see the depth of their feelings and to appreciate the unique way they let their guard down when they trust you enough to do so. For many men, sex is far more than a source of physical pleasure. It is one of their strongest love languages and a central way they experience and express emotional connection. While it's easy to see intimacy as purely physical, for a significant number of men, it represents something much deeper. It is how they feel desired, appreciated, and chosen by their partner. When a man is physically intimate with someone he loves, it often reassures him that he is still attractive to her, that she wants him, and that he holds a special place in her life. This feeling of being wanted is not just about ego, it's tied to a deep human need for acceptance and closeness. For men whose primary love language is physical touch, sexual intimacy becomes one of the clearest ways they receive love. They may not always have the words to describe their feelings, but when they are physically close to their partner, it often becomes easier for them to show affection, communicate openly, and feel emotionally secure. Without this form of connection, they may start to feel distant or question whether the relationship still carries the same spark. This isn't because they only care about sex, but because for them it represents affirmation and closeness in a way nothing else does. In long-term relationships, this link between sex and love can become even more important. As daily life brings stress, responsibilities, and challenges, sexual intimacy often serves as a reset button, reminding both partners of the bond they share beyond the routines and pressures of everyday life. For men who express love in this way, physical closeness can dissolve tension, repair emotional distance, and renew the feeling of being deeply connected. It's also worth noting that for some men, sex is one of the few spaces where they feel completely safe to be vulnerable. The act itself requires a level of openness and trust that allows them to drop the guard they carry in other areas of life. This vulnerability can make intimacy incredibly meaningful, even if they never verbalize it. It becomes not just about the body, but about feeling accepted in their entirety. However, when this need is misunderstood, it can lead to conflict. If a partner sees sex only as a physical act, she might overlook the emotional weight it carries for him. Without understanding this perspective, she might misinterpret his desire for intimacy as purely physical, when in reality it may be his way of reaching for closeness and reassurance. Recognizing sex as a love language means seeing it as a form of communication, not just a physical release. For men who connect in this way, intimacy can be the clearest, most powerful way they give and receive love. When this need is met with understanding and reciprocity, it deepens the emotional bond, strengthens trust, and creates a relationship that feels alive, supported, and deeply fulfilling for both partners. Men have a deep desire to feel chosen for who they truly are, not just for what they can provide. While society often measures a man's worth by his ability to earn, protect, or achieve, most men long for a love that values their personality, character, and heart over their external accomplishments. This desire is rooted in the need to be seen beyond the roles they play. A man might be admired for his career, his physical strength, or his social status, but those forms of admiration can feel conditional. True emotional fulfillment comes when he knows that his partner loves him, even if all of those external markers were stripped away. When a man feels loved for his essence rather than his possessions or capabilities, it gives him a level of security that no material success can match. It reassures him that the relationship is built on authenticity, not transaction. This is why many men test emotional compatibility in subtle ways. They may open up about insecurities, share personal failures, or talk about times when they felt powerless. These moments are not accidental. They are ways of seeing whether the connection remains strong when the image of perfection fades. If his partner responds with empathy and still chooses him, his trust deepens and his love grows. Conversely, when a man senses that his value is tied only to what he can provide, it can create pressure and emotional distance. He may start to feel like a role rather than a person, as though his worth is conditional on his ability to meet certain expectations. Over time, this can erode intimacy because he may fear that love will disappear if his circumstances change. This fear can make him guarded, reluctant to show his true self, or overly focused on maintaining a certain image just to keep the relationship stable. Men who feel genuinely chosen for who they are tend to invest more deeply in the relationship. They are more willing to share their dreams, take emotional risks, and give love freely without holding back. This is because they know they are not competing to keep their partner's attention through status or performance. They already have it through authenticity. In this space of security, they are more likely to be vulnerable, affectionate, and loyal because they feel valued as a human being, not just a provider. Love that sees past the surface allows a man to exhale. It gives him the freedom to be imperfect, to grow, and to know that he will still be embraced. For men, this is one of the most powerful emotional experiences. They don't just want to be wanted for what they can do. They want to be wanted for who they are when the world isn't watching. That is the kind of love that lasts because it touches the part of them that no achievement, paycheck, or title could ever define. At the heart of understanding men in love and sex is realizing that their emotional world is often layered, shaped by biology, upbringing, and personal experience. Lust and love can exist separately for them, yet both play important roles in how they connect. Safety and respect often matter more than constant passion, and the link between sex and emotional closeness can vary from man to man. Sometimes it is the doorway to love, other times it is the result of it. Many carry a deep fear of vulnerability, expressing love more through actions than words, while for others, sex itself is a profound love language that reassures them they are wanted and valued. Above all, men want to be chosen for their essence, not just their achievements, and when they feel that kind of unconditional acceptance, their love becomes steady, loyal, and deeply committed. When we understand these truths, we can see past stereotypes and assumptions and instead meet men where they truly are, allowing for relationships that are not just passionate but built on lasting trust, mutual respect, and genuine emotional connection.